I'll wait for them to get the...
They gave you the go time.
They gave me the go-ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm David McReynolds, and in the in-class survey that I gave, a large number of people had noticed that they had turned older music up and newer music down. This is because record companies, producers, artists, and lots of people affiliated with the music industry want their things to sound louder than everyone else's. Why should you care? Because it changes the way that the artist intended the music to sound. Not necessarily a bad thing, not necessarily a good thing, it just is a change. I've been interviewed by Time Magazine, CBS Nightly News, about music and about records and about recording, and I've had pretty much an obsessive interest with sound and recording ever since I was about 3. I've also done extensive research on the topic and written about it. In my speech, I will cover the Loudness War, what is it, the history of how loud recordings have been, the evidence of the Loudness War, and finally I'll end with a demonstration of what the Loudness War will do to a piece of music. What is the Loudness War? The Loudness War is turning up volume on a recording so you do not do it with a volume knob. It's as simple as that. With the advent of the CD, there was a limit as to how loud it could be. So people started squeezing the music down so you could fit more in. When using an analog recorder, you could not squeeze as much without things really starting to sound bad. With digital, you can just clip it. It'll just stop and it'll just keep getting loud. The average level will keep getting louder, but it will not. You can set it so it will not distort. Why is this happening? According to Joseph Palmbeck, a reporter for the New York Times, pop artists and their labels shudder at the prospect of having their song seem quieter than anyone else's song on a fan's playlist. With digital recording, they can definitely make it louder. They can always make it louder. There are so many things they can do to make it louder, it would take hours to describe them. But with digital, you can just keep stopping the level. That's the whole point, is you can just stop it, and it will not distort. It'll just keep getting louder. When you use an analog tape, as it gets louder, it starts to slowly, very slowly squeeze the signal in a usually far more musically pleasing way. And that's what the Loudness War is. It's just turning it up. The history of levels and recordings, they started turning them up back in the 1960s with Motown and the beginning of soul, because they wanted their music to sound louder than everyone else's on record players and boom boxes and jukeboxes in bars and clubs. But in a record, if you made these too big, the needle would jump out and it would skip, and people would complain and they would return it. So there was a limit to what you could do. Also, and if it was too low, you'd start hitting record noise. Everyone's heard crackling and popping from them, I'm sure. But with digital, you can make it as loud as you want. It's not going to skip. It's not going to do anything. It's just going to keep getting louder until you hit that point. There's a lot of evidence that over the past 20 years, the Loudness War has been getting out of control. People have been wanting their music louder ever since pretty much the dawn of recording, but people have developed new techniques in the past 20 years that have made it so loud that whatever the artist wanted is not there anymore. For instance, in 1991, this is a song by Michael Jackson called Black or White. This is what the original waveform looks like. 1991. In 1995, there was a greatest hits. As you can see, it's getting bigger. And some of these peaks are above this line, which shows it's distorting. In 2007, they did it again. And they kept turning it up and up and up. And if we look back compared to this, you can see there's definitely a change. There's definitely, and you're going to hear that. It's just going to sound louder. It's going to sound more uniform. But that's not what the artist intended. Metallica's Death Magnetic is probably the most famous example of Loudness War that has ever been created. The band was in Europe when the album was mixed, and as you can see, this is the version that went to Guitar Hero before it was mixed, and this is what came off of the CD. Same song called The Day That Never Comes. The mastering engineer, the person who put this on CD, said, and I quote, I would never be pushed to overdrive things as far as they were here. Believe me, I'm not proud to be associated with this one, and we can only hope that some good will come of this in the form of a backlash against volume above all else. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking that, well, what does it sound like? He keeps talking about how all of this sounds so, if all of this music sounds so, if I keep talking about all this and I keep showing all of these graphs, what does it actually sound like? Well, since I'm a recording engineer, I recorded a piece of classical music called The Planets, written by Gustav Holst. I'll play you first the version that has not been touched, uncompressed. Here's what it sounds like. Here's the compressed version. Exact same piece of music, exact same everything, but it was originally this, I took it and I made it this. And that's what it sounds like. So, in conclusion, music has been getting louder for the past 20 years in average. Now you know, you can listen for the differences, you can hear if things sound more distorted, if they don't sound as natural. So next time you're listening to a piece of music, listen, see if it sounds like the actual instrument. If it doesn't, odds are it's probably been a victim of the loudness war. Now you know. Thank you for your time.